All right, welcome. Just to make sure that everything is broadcasting, if you can hear the sound of my voice, raise your hand in the GoToWebinar how to raise your hand control panel. There we go. Very good. An important thing to learn. All right. Why don't we go ahead and get started then? If you have questions as I'm going along, just type them in the chat. And at the end, I'll go through all of the questions. Why not? All right. So I want to welcome everybody. My name is Michael Devlin, and this is Real Estate 101, how to launch a successful real estate career. There's really three topics that we're going to cover tonight. One of them is why real estate. What I mean by that is usually when people are, willing to take time out on a Monday night to participate in, something like this, it is usually because they're looking for something new, something different, hopefully better in their business or professional life. I'm assuming that's why you're here. And if you're looking to do something different, something better in your professional life, why real estate? Why would you get into it? What do you have to do to be successful? How much can you really make? We'll talk about that. And then a related question is, well, why now? Right? Would it be better to wait? Is it going to improve? Is it going to go down? Is now a good time? We'll talk about that. Another topic would be how to choose an office to affiliate with, because once you've decided you want to be in real estate, the next question is with whom. There are lots of different kinds of real estate companies. They operate and are structured differently, and we'll go over what some of those differences are and what you might want to look for when you were picking an office. And then finally, in how to get started, we're going to cover what you need to do to get a real estate license and how long does that process take, and well, how much does all of this cost? That's what we're going to cover tonight. I hope that sounds like what you wanted to hear, because that's what I'm going to talk about. Let's start with the why real estate part. Right? I like to begin with some definitions. You've probably heard the word broker and the word salesperson. Those words refer to two different kinds of real estate licenses. You could either get a real estate broker's license or you could get a real estate salesperson's license. Now, in a sense, there's not a big difference between the two. If you have a real estate broker's license, there's two things that you could do with the broker's license that you can't do with a salesperson's license. In other words, a real estate salesperson can do everything a broker can do with two exceptions. Number one is be independent. Salespeople have to work for brokers. Brokers don't have to work for brokers. Brokers can be independent. The other thing you could do with a broker's license is, well, you could brag about it. You could tell everybody that you have the advanced license, the graduate license, the executive license, the big license. Most people have no idea what you're talking about, nor do they particularly care. So to be a broker, you need 2 years full-time experience in real estate or 4 years part-time experience in real estate within the last 5 years, and take more courses and pass a different exam. So we're going to focus on how to become a real estate salesperson, because, well, that's what you really need to do. Then there's the word agent. The word agent is actually very different in that it denotes a relationship, because in agency, there is a principal who hires the agent to represent the principal in dealings with third parties, right? There's three parts to agency: a principal, an agent, and a third party. No third party, there is no agency. Now, the way this comes up is people will ask me in the process of getting licensed or thinking about getting into real estate license, this is what they'll ask me. They'll say, if I get my real estate license and I decide I'd like to buy a house for myself or my family, can I be my own agent? Can I be my own agent? I've been asked that question many times, and technically and legally, the answer is, well, no, you can't be your own agent. And the reason is because by definitions, agents represent other people. If you're representing yourself in a transaction, you are not an agent. You're a principal, and therefore you can't be both, right? You can't be both the buyer and the buyer's agent. You're just the buyer. Now, that was an accurate, technically correct answer to the question. But I also realized that that's not really the question they were asking me. The question they were really asking me was this: if I get my real estate license and I decide to buy a house for myself or my family, can I save money on the commission? Well, the answer to that is yes. It's not because you're an agent in the transaction. You're not. You're a principal. It's because you're a licensee. And the word licensee refers to somebody with a license. It could be a broker's license. It could be a salesperson's license. And due to that professional status, you may be able to save money on the commission, but you are still not an agent in that transaction. And then finally is the word realtor. And the word realtor is a copyrighted designation of the National Association of Realtors, which is a trade association, which is kind of like a union, right? It's a lot like a union, actually. It's like the Teamsters Union. If you're not familiar, the Teamsters Union would be a union you might join if you wanted to be a truck driver. Now, the question is, are you legally required, if you want to drive trucks, to join the Teamsters Union? Is that a law? Do you have to join the union? The answer is no. What do you need in order to drive a truck commercially? You need the license, right? If you have the right license, you can drive the truck. You don't need to join the union. You don't have to, but you might choose to. There are some jobs you won't get unless you're a member. They have retirement plans and insurance programs and job boards, and they got stuff, right? They have stuff. So if you join the Association of Realtors, that's what our union is, you get the designation of realtor. But not everybody does that. You're not required to join the Association of Realtors just because you want to sell real estate. What you need is a license and a broker. However, I'll cover this in greater detail later. If your goal is to sell residential property, 1 to 4 units, now you're going to probably join the union, right? Because that's how you get access to the multiple listing service, access to the forms that we use, access to the key that unlocks homes when people aren't there. What can you do with a real estate license? I bet you already knew that you could help people buy and sell residential properties and be paid a commission. I bet you knew that. The same is true with commercial. I've had people say to me, I don't want to sell houses. I don't want to work evenings and weekends. I don't want to talk to people at their kitchen table about selling their, I don't want to do that. I want to deal with business people during business hours. I want to do commercial real estate. How do I get that license? And the answer is there's no such thing as a commercial real estate license. There's just a real estate license. And if you have a real estate license, you can do residential, you can do commercial, same license. You also can do loans. Mortgage brokers are real estate brokers, and the people that work for them have real estate licenses. In addition to getting the license, you have to get it endorsed as a mortgage loan originator, which means another course and another exam and another fee. And then you become a mortgage loan originator, and you can do loans in the state of California. Property managers also use the same license that we do. People that help others rent out property and negotiate leases and do all that sort of stuff, same license. And a business opportunity is when we're selling not just the building, or maybe not even the building at all, but we're selling the business that's in the building, right? Been involved recently in negotiations with a commercial building that involved a Big O tires. Well, part of the transaction was somebody's going to want to buy the business. And if you have a real estate license, you can be paid a commission from working with businesses, even when real property is not part of the transaction. Mostly what I'm going to talk about tonight is residential real estate, because that's where most people begin. I'm going to talk a little bit about the difference between residential and commercial as we get a little bit further, but a lot of it is similar. So the ways of holding a real estate license: you could either work for a broker, or you could not work for a broker, but you need a broker to work, right? Now, The reason I made this slide, right, is because I've been asked many times. People would say something like this: look, I don't know what I'm going to do. I've always liked real estate. People have always said you ought to be in real estate. I've always wanted to get into real estate. Now seems like a good time. I have time to study and do all that other kind of stuff, but I don't know what I want to do. I don't know who I want to work for. I don't know what I want to do. If I did know somebody that I was working for, do I have to figure all that out before I can get my license? And the answer is no. You don't have to figure it all out just to get a real estate license. You can get a real estate license and not have a broker. And what the Department of Real Estate will do is issue you the license as a non-working real estate license. That's what they call it, a non-working real estate license. And you have to understand, however, that a non-working real estate license is like a non-working car, right? You can have it in your garage. When your friends come over, you can show them the car. They can sit in the car. But when they say, hey, let's go for a ride, you have to say, no, we can't do that. You see, it's not a working car. So you can get a real estate license without having a broker. You can renew it every 4 years without having a broker. You can keep it forever without having a broker. But you're going to need to activate it with a broker to change its status to working status, and then you can do something and earn a real estate commission. Why are people attracted to real estate? Probably the top reason I hear is freedom and independence. It was a long time ago. I used to work for a very odd company. And what was so strange about this company is they actually told us what time we had to be at work each day, right? It was like they had some sort of a rule, right, that everyone had to show up by a particular time, right? They would let us know when we could go on a break and when lunch was and when lunch was over and when the other break was and when we could go home. I believe that arrangement is called a job, right? I think that's what that's called, a job, the journey of the broke. So being in real estate is not like having a job. It's like having your own business. And the people that are more successful in real estate are people that have always wanted to have their own business. In fact, it wouldn't hurt if you had some business acumen. And the relationship that we have to the associates we work with is not an employer-employee relationship. It's the business advisor or a business consultant to a business owner relationship. You understand what I'm saying? We're not going to call you at 10 o'clock in the morning and say, hey, where are you, right? It's not that kind of a deal. Freedom and independence. Now, what do you think might be a disadvantage, for some people at least, for being in real estate? What would be a big disadvantage? And the answer is, well, freedom and independence. Right? There's a story of the guy that joined one of the tech companies. It was his first day, and he's getting, the tour and the orientation and all that. And at lunchtime, he meets somebody who apparently has been there for a long time, and the old timer is explaining to him the history of the company and what's going on and where they're going and what's good and what's bad, all that kind of stuff. And finally, the new guy says to the old timer, well, thanks for all that information. How long have you worked for this company? And the old timer says, ever since they threatened to fire me. Right? That's how long I've been working for the company. Have you ever met anyone like that? Right? They work just enough so they don't get fired. Right? And then the company pays them just enough so they don't quit, right? And they work out this sort of a sick relationship. Well, that doesn't work very well in real estate. And I'll say the words plainly. Real estate is a non-salaried, commission-only profession. Non-salaried, commission-only. That means it can be a high-paying, hard job, but it also can be a very low-paying, easy job. So one of the things you have to have in order to be successful in real estate is self-discipline. You have to be motivated, right? I haven't learned how to teach motivation. I don't know. You have to be motivated and to have self-discipline to go with the freedom and independence. Another thing that attracts people to real estate is, well, to make money. That's how much money can you make in real estate? That depends on a lot of things. How long have you been doing it? How many people you know? how much time you can spend at it, how some people are better at it than others, that's just the truth. So to give you an example, let's say you sold an $800,000 house. Now, depending where you are in the Bay Area, and there's people all around, hopefully listening to the sound of my voice, if you were in Alameda County, 800 is about a median price home. In Contra Costa County, it's less than that. It's more in the 600 to 700 range. In Santa Clara County, 1.2, 1.3 million. San Mateo County, 1.31. You get the idea. 800,000 in our area is not an expensive home. So the amount of commission that would be paid on the sale of an $800,000 home is not chiseled in stone. It's not set by law. It can be negotiated. It wouldn't be unusual for the gross, and just to be clear, there's two sides to the transaction. There's the side, which by that I mean office typically, that represents the seller, and a side that represents the buyer. Now, it would be common in the sale of an $800,000 property for each side to gross $20,000 in commission. You sell an $800,000 house and you represent a buyer, your commission could easily be about $20,000. So let's say you were able to do that. Let's say in 1 year, you found 6 people who wanted to sell their home and they eventually sold it. You found 6 people that wanted to buy a home and they eventually bought it. They all were about $800,000, $20,000 gross commission. You would have earned $240,000 in commissions that year. One transaction a month, on average, for 12 months, $240,000. So the first question, I guess, is, could you live on that? Right? I know you'll have to cut back a little, but we're just getting started. Can you understand that if you up that to 2 transactions a month, 440,000, well, you get where I'm going with this. In our market, when you've sold about $1 million, let me put it this way, when you've done about 40 million in volume. Now, that, depending on where you are, that could mean $40 million transactions or $22 million transactions. You get the idea. But when you get up to that level of volume, your income is about $1 million in commissions. And I know what you might be thinking, right? 240,000 to $1 million. Gee, if I made that much money, I'd have no idea how to spend it. I'm sure that's what you were thinking. But one thing you could do, some of you may have ideas on how to spend it already, but one thing you could do with the money is you could invest in real estate. If you've ever there's an old saying, buy land, they're not making any more of it, right? And most people that retire, that are somewhat wealthy and are well off, most people are doing that through real estate investments rather than 401ks, right? I'm just saying that's oftentimes the case. And if you wanted to invest in real estate, being in real estate would be a good place to be. You know about properties before other people do. You understand financing. You've got more contacts. You know what's going on in the market. There's an old saying that we might live on our commissions, but we'll retire on our investments. And finally, there's security. That may seem like a strange trait for a independent contractor in business by yourself kind of arrangement, but I'll give you an example. A friend of mine went to San Jose State, studied mechanical engineering, graduated, got a job with Hitachi in their hard drive division. 28 and a half years later, they laid him off. And they told him it wasn't personal, nothing personal, right? And it obviously wasn't that personal because they let go everybody in his department, in the whole division. They closed the whole plant. Now, I moved it someplace else. I'm not saying he was a perfect engineer, but what I am saying is that even if he had been a perfect engineer, he still would have lost his job. Because it wasn't that they made a decision that he wasn't doing a good job where he was. They made a decision, we don't need anybody doing that job here anymore, right? And they moved the job away. So because real estate is like having your own business, you can be bad at it and you can fail at it, but you can't really get fired at it. You understand, if you don't get along with us, you can take your license and go down the street and work with somebody else. If you don't get along with anybody, any brokers, then all you have to do is tough it out for 2 years and then go get your broker's license and then you can be alone. I'm not really sure how that works, but anyhow, you get the idea. You can fail, but you can't get fired, right? Other people can't tell you, no, we don't need you to do this anymore. So ways of approaching real estate. There's the investor agent. The investor agent oftentimes has another job, family, other commitments. They're not looking to quit their other job, get out of their other job. They don't really see themselves as much as a real estate agent as an investor who's also an agent. And they do sell real estate and help others because the process of learning how to do this for yourself is the same process of learning how to do it for others. And sometimes they represent investors because they are one, right? But they don't necessarily have any plans on stopping whatever it is that they're doing during the day. Then there are part-time agents, and there's two kinds of part-time agents. There's the permanent part-time. And the permanent part-time is somebody that doesn't want to quit their job, right? Or whatever their other commitment is, they don't want to quit. If it's a job, maybe that's where their medical insurance is coming from. Maybe that's where they meet all the people that they're selling real estate to, and quitting just means they have lost their sphere of influence. So they want to do real estate part-time, right? They want to make some money, but they're not necessarily looking to change jobs. Then there's the second type of part-time agent, which I call the transitional part-time agent. And the transitional part-time agent wants out of their current job, right? Really wants out of their current job. And what they're looking for is a way of getting into real estate and leaving their current job, but they want to wait until their business is rolling enough such that they're able to make the switch without losing, keeping their same income. Then there are full-time agents, and full-time agents are agents that they might have some other commitments, but essentially they're able to devote 40 hours a week or more towards the real estate business. And there are certain, and that puts them in, that's their sole income, let's say, or their major source of income. And then there are big-time agents. And big-time agents are agents that have developed teams, and sometimes the teams are small local teams, sometimes they're regional teams, sometimes they're actually international teams. We'll talk a little bit about how you might be able to do that later. So challenges for the full-time agents is, number one, you have to understand that this is sales. And what sales is all about is having conversations with people about whatever it is you're selling. Now, the good news about real estate is that it's something pretty much everybody wants. What percentage of the American public now or in the future would be interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate? What percentage? And the answer is, well, most people would be in that category. So what that means is that everyone you know and everyone you meet is a potential client. You just have to have a conversation with them. So sales is about talking to people. The more people you talk to about real estate, the more you'd get paid. If you only talk to some people about real estate, you'd only be paid some. But if you talk to a lot of people about real estate, then you could get paid a lot, right? You understand, it's a relationship between the number of people that you talk to. And the fortune, we know, is made from following up with people. Not everyone that I talk to is interested in buying, selling, or investing in real estate today. I mean, if you looked at it statistically, if we had 100 adults that let's say could afford to buy real estate or want to buy real estate or own real estate or might invest in real estate, what percentage of those 100 people are actually planning on doing something this year? Maybe 10%, right? So that means I'm going to have, if I need to talk to 10 people before I find one person that's actually interested in doing something. You see where I'm going with this. We get more no's, or maybe not now, then we get yeses, right? So we have to follow up. We know that about 70% of the business comes not from that initial contact, but from following up with the people that we've talked to. If you're doing this full time, you're going to maybe need some reserves before, to last you through. So it could happen very quickly. I hired somebody in June, did an open house. This was a year ago, not this June, but a year ago. Started at the office in June, did an open house, met somebody at the open house that was interested in buying the house. I helped with the transaction. They bought the house, it closed, and she got her first commission check in July. Now, I'm not saying that's normal. I'm just saying that's possible. But you need to understand that a transaction would take 30 to 45 days to close, assuming nothing went wrong. And it's going to take some time before you're in a transaction and you don't get paid until the transaction closes. You understand it could be a few months. You might need to have some reserves. And if you're doing residential real estate, you need to understand that you're working evenings and weekends. That's when your potential clients are free. That's when they generally want to talk to you. How do you feel about working evenings and weekends? This, of course, is also why you could do it part-time and have another job, because when you're free is when the people you know are free. You need to be a self-starter, right? Nobody's watching over you. There's some people that don't do well if they're not in an environment where they're being watched. No salary, I already mentioned that. And you're going to need a couple of grand of startup capital. I'll break that down a little bit more for you later. Now, we're going to talk mostly about residential, but if you're in commercial real estate, a lot of the same things I just said were true, but there are some differences. First of all, in commercial real estate, the commission checks are bigger, right? The average commercial agent makes more than the average residential agent. But on the plus side, the commissions are bigger because the prices are higher and you're working normal business hours, typically dealing with normal business. Well, some of them are more normal than others, but you're not generally working evenings and weekends as much because it's a commercial business kind of a thing. On the downside, the lag time to get going is longer. It takes longer for a commercial transaction from initial contact to somebody doing something to its closing. And some of the costs, starting up capital and things like that, it's more expensive to be a commercial real estate agent than to be a residential one. Right? But then the checks are bigger. But otherwise, it's still about sales and talking to people and that sort of thing. So what do you need to succeed? A goal would be good. And once you have a goal, maybe a plan and a schedule that would fit that goal. I'll give you an example. Let's say the one a month, 12 transactions a year resonated with you, the $240,000 to $440,000, right? Depending on the price point. That resonated with you and you're like, yeah, I'd like to know how to do that. All right, so if we want to close 12 transactions, we need to back up a step and say, well, how many appointments are we going to need with people that are thinking of buying, selling, or investing in real estate? How many appointments are we going to need before we close the transaction? Let's just say 4, right? You understand, not everybody that you have an appointment with is going to buy, sell, or invest in real estate. You might need 4 appointments in order to close one transaction. So if you're going to close 12 transactions, you would need 48 appointments. And that would come out to be roughly 1 appointment a week for 48 weeks. It's not roughly, but exactly that. 1 appointment a week for 48 weeks. That means you can take a month off. You're in real estate. You can take a month off, right? 1 a week for 48 weeks. All right, that doesn't sound too bad. So how do I get 1 appointment a week? Well, you have to have conversations with people about buying, selling, or investing in real estate. Roughly, how many conversations do you need before you get an appointment? Let's say 50, right? Your mileage may vary, depends on who you're talking to and how good of a talker you are and a bunch of other things, but let's say 50. Now, what that breaks down to is that you would need to have 10 conversations a day with people about buying, selling, or investing in real estate 5 days a week on average in order to have the 50 conversations a week to get the appointment a week to close the transaction a month. 10 a day. That's what it brings down to. So what are you going to say and who are you going to talk to? That's what we'll cover in our training program and in the coaching and mentoring program, and provide you the tools and systems that you need in order to effectively do that. What does a daily schedule for real estate agents look like? It'll vary. This is just one I borrowed from somebody, but it gives a breakdown into the kinds of things. There's generally preparation for lead generation, which means talking to people. Appointment setting activities is lead generation. Time you spend actually talking to the people, following up with the people you've talked to, servicing the clients that you get, right? Emails and text messages and forms. I spend a lot of time on forms, having appointments with buyers and sellers. That's pretty much what a day is like. Commissions and service, as a general concept, the higher the commission, the fewer the services. Not always true. And many offices charge large monthly fees. Let me go through what the options are, speaking very broadly. Let's say there are 3 kinds of real estate companies, right? On one end, we have the boutiques, right? The small, oftentimes small independent offices. The advantages to working at the small independent office is they're more flexible. They may have less fees. They may have better splits, but they don't. The downside is they don't have training, they don't have tools, they don't have systems, they don't have referral networks. They're missing a lot. However, you could work, let's say, with no monthly fees and a lower and a higher split if you work for one of those, but they're not going to do anything to help you, right? You understand, they're small, they're independent, they don't have the resources. On the other end, you have the big boxes, right? Now, I spent a lot of my career working for the big box real estate companies. I spent a long time, it's a ridiculously long time, I don't want to say the number of years, at a company called Century 21. I also spent 7 years at a company called Keller Williams. Right now, Keller Williams is the largest real estate company by number of agents. Century 21 is still in the top 5, right? 4 at least. Now, what do those, first of all, most of those are franchises. They're independently owned and operated. They've got name recognition. You've heard of them before, right? They've got stuff, tools and systems and things like that, but the commission is not generally as good, and the fees are definitely a lot higher. Right? Now, in between those 2 extremes, there's the cloud brokerage. And the cloud brokerage is a different model that combines some of the benefits without the disadvantages of the 2. And we'll get to that in a moment. But I just thought that would be a good time to cover it. I will look more at the cloud brokerage in a bit. Market predictions for 2021. Home prices are supposed to rise in most USCs. How much? It depends on who you ask. Minimum projection is 3% next year. The economists at Zillow think it's going to be 7% is the amount of appreciation in median prices across the United States. 5% are some of the estimates. We don't know for sure, but you get the idea. They're probably not going to fall. Housing inventory is tight now and is likely to remain tight in 2021 as long as the reasons why people are buying in such a frenzied state continue, and they're likely to continue because interest rates are so low, historically low. I just recently they dipped below 3%. 2.88. I remember seeing that a little while ago. And it's projected that interest rates are going to stay in the 3% range next year. So why is there limited inventory? What's going on right now? Why are prices going up? Prices, by the way, in Santa Clara County, the median price went up about 14% year over year. It's actually higher than that as a nationwide figure from October of 2020 to October of 2019, but it's not going to continue at quite that speed. What's the difference? Why is this going on right now? Well, first of all, we have limited inventory because of the pandemic and other things. Sellers are skittish, they're scared, right? About a third of the sellers said they're waiting to figure out what's going on with all this before they put their home on the market. Another reason that inventory is low is because some people want to get the most possible when they sell their house, so they're not putting it on the market because they're waiting for the market to peak, right? They want it to hit the top. Now, the problem with that strategy is we don't know that it's going to peak until the peak is passed, right? That's the only way you know that the peak has been hit, because we passed it. So what happens is the market goes through these ups and downs, and when the market starts to correct and go down, what then happens is that a lot of the sellers who have been sitting on the fence decide now may be a good time to put our home on the market, and then the market dips a little bit because now the inventory goes up. And it's the demand for buyers now that's driving this because of the low interest rates. Interest rates go up 1%, right? And by the way, they were close to 5 a couple of years ago. But if interest rates go up 1%, it lowers the purchasing power of a typical buyer by 10%. What that means is that a mortgage payment that today would buy you a $1 million house, if interest rates go up 1%, that same payment will buy you only a $900,000 house. In other words, you've lost $100,000 in equity. The same mortgage payment that today would get you $1 million, tomorrow may get you a $900,000 house. By the way, if it goes up 2 points, you're looking at $800,000 homes for the same payment that today would get you $1 million home. So sometimes people are saying, well, I'm going to wait to buy until the market goes down. That could be a while. And how much is it going to go down? Because usually when it's going down, interest rates are going up. The average interest rate since the 1970s in the United States is about 7%. Just saying, right? You understand what is normal? It's closer to 7% than it is to 3%. Just saying. So let's talk about a cloud brokerage. The other two models, the little boutique and the big box, are relatively easy to understand. EXP is a company I'm affiliated with, and they are a cloud-based brokerage, and we're growing like crazy. I actually have some more recent numbers, but I didn't put them in yet. Our third quarter went up just wildly. So we're the number of agents we have, the amount of transactions we're doing, all of that is growing at an exponential rate. And one of the reasons that we've grown so fast, particularly in the last year, is that we're a cloud-based brokerage. We've been referred to as the Amazon of real estate. And for those of you that were around when there were blockbusters, there was a time when Netflix offered to sell to Blockbuster for a really nominal amount. Netflix was hurting for money and they wanted to sell. They were going to give up and sell out to Blockbuster. Blockbuster knew what they were doing. They turned them down, right? Turned them down. Well, what happened to Blockbuster, right? What happened to Circuit City? And that same pattern is also happening to traditional real estate brokerages. So we have a cloud environment. That means there's no desk fees and you can work from anywhere. We don't have brick and mortar costs, right? The reason that EXP is able to provide more technology, more training, better commission splits, revenue sharing, more benefits, the reason they're able to do that is they're not renting buildings all over the United States. No expensive leases and instant training and support. So speaking of training, we have more than 50 hours a week of live training, most of which is also recorded in case you missed it, on all the different aspects of building a business, to filling out the contracts, to using the technology, everything. Real-time support in the cloud. I can go virtually talk to technical support, talk to the human resources, accounting, all of those departments, and the training is all online in a cloud environment. We are international. In fact, we've added a few more locations. I have to update the slides a little bit. But we started out in the United States and Canada, are in Australia and New Zealand, and the United Kingdom and South Africa, and other places are being added. Others are being added. And one of the big differences is equity opportunities. If you work for a traditional real estate company, you're not going to end up owning a part of the company. But our stock is sold on NASDAQ. EXPI is our symbol. And what I've set up so that every time I close a transaction with EXP, 5% of the commission that I earn goes to the purchasing of stock at a discount. Stock ownership, our stock, by the way, went up crazy in the last year because we were the only major cloud-based brokerage when the pandemic came along. You get to participate in how the company runs, and revenue share. 50% of all the revenue that EXP earns, they give back to agents through what's called revenue share. Half of the money that the company earns, half of the revenues are paid back to associates in revenue sharing. All you have to do is introduce people and help us grow, and you can participate in the revenue share program. We have a virtual world where it's the real estate office in the future, right? It's a virtual campus environment. It can be accessed by a cell phone, a laptop, a regular computer, a tablet. All of that works fairly easy. It's an avatar-based system, training rooms, meeting rooms, departments, information sharing, all of that is online. And because we're a big real estate company, we have all the marketing tools that you would need. All of the, everything is turnkey. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to take, classes on how to do any of this stuff. It's all a turnkey system. We're been called the Amazon of real estate, the real estate disruptor, right? We've been predicted to do to real estate what Netflix did to Blockbuster and what Amazon did to Circuit Cities and the likes of them. In terms of how much agents earn, so most real estate companies have a baseline commission. Now, when you're first getting started on your first 3 transactions, there's generally a mentoring program, but let's skip that for a second. Keller Williams, sort of the baseline commission was 70-30. Century 21, it was 50-50. I'm talking about you're just getting started. EXP was 80-20, is 80-20. But notice it has a cap, and that cap is $16,000. Let me explain what that means. And by the way, I have a production team at EXP, and if you join my production team, then your cap is only $8,000. Let me explain how that would work. Remember the example of the $800,000 house for sale with a gross commission of $20,000. On an 80-20 commission split, you would get $16,000 and EXP would get $4,000, 20%. If you were on my production team when you had done 2 of those transactions, you would have paid $8,000 to EXP and you would be at 100% commission for the rest of that year. If you were independent, your cap is $16,000, which means about 4 transactions, and you're at 100%. And usually people, they join the team until they get going, and then they start their own team, will help you do that. And so 100% after 2 to 4 transactions, given an $800,000 price point. I've had agents who sold 1 house and capped, right? Because it takes just a little more than $3 million to do that, and that's all that was needed. It costs $85 a month to be at EXP. That it covers all the training and the access to the world, all of that stuff. Now, just to give you an example, when I was at Keller Williams, it depends on which one, but typically you're paying maybe $200 a month, some of them up to $300 or $400 a month. If you look at Coldwell Bankers and Compasses and things like that, there could be $300, $400, $500 a month is what they're charging. They also don't have that high of a split. They don't have that low of a cap. Those that even have caps, they charge more fees when you close a transaction. And the reason they have to do all that is because they have all these brick and mortar locations that they have to maintain, and you're paying for that if you're the agent. We may not be a household name. I don't know if you've heard of EXP before. We're the 5th largest real estate company in the United States by agent size. We're the largest independent real estate company in the United States by just about any way you want to look at it, transactions, and you know, we're a very big company, international, which means we can afford to do the things that would be necessary to help you in your business. How to get started. So in order to get a real estate license, there's 3 things you have to do. One is you have to complete 3 college level courses. Those aren't college courses. You don't have to go to college to do this. Number 2, you have to pass an exam given by the California Department of Real Estate. That's the second thing. And once you've done those 2 things, you now can apply to get a real estate license. Before you can apply to even take the state exam, you need to complete a college level course in real estate principles, a college level course in real estate practices, and an elective course. And the elective can come from anything on this list. Now, I will point out that on this list, we have accounting, economics, and business law. So if you have ever taken accounting, economics, or business law from a junior college or better, and you can get your hands on a copy of the transcript, it doesn't have to be an original. This isn't like applying to Harvard. You've got the 3rd course. I've had people say to me, well, I have all 3, accounting, economics, and business law. Only one from this list is needed. I've had people say, well, I've taken accounting in another country. Will that work? The answer is probably. I mean, what's the difference, right? Accounting, what's the difference, right? Accounting, they will accept accounting courses from other countries because accounting, you know, is pretty much the same. In fact, it hasn't fundamentally changed since, you know, the time of the Babylonians. If you're saying, well, I don't have any of those, accounting, economics, or business law, what am I going to do? Our program includes legal aspects of real estate, which is also known as real estate law. Now, even if you've got accounting, economics, or business law, I would recommend to go through the real estate law, the legal aspects course anyhow. It's included in the package. And the reason is that when you go take the state exam, they're not going to ask you questions about accounting, economics, or business law. They're not going to ask you about that, but they will ask a lot of questions about real estate law, and that might be a better thing to study. Where are your options? You could go to college. Our system involves an online college level program. This is how an online college level course works. You enroll in the course. You get a link to log into the website, and when you do that, there's a button to push that says start the course. That's important that you push the button, because once you push that button, a timer starts ticking in the background, and after 18 days has elapsed, you are now eligible to take the final exam for that course. That doesn't mean you have to take the final exam in 18 days. What it means is you can't take the final exam any sooner than 18 days after you start the course. But you could take it longer than that, but no sooner than 18 days. The final exams for the 3 college level courses, those 3 final exams are online final exams. You can take them at home, and they're open book tests. Let me cover that one more time. The 3 final exams required for the 3 college level courses are online, at home, open book Cheat as much as you want to. Final exams, you can cheat as much as you want to. They give you 3 hours to get 75 out of 100 questions correct. Did I mention that this is an open book test? The reason they make you wait 18 days to take the final exam is you could pass right now. If we logged you in, right, give you a copy of the book and an internet connection, right, and gave you 3 hours, you could find 75 answers out of the 75 out of the 100. You could find 75 answers. You could look them up cold in 3 hours, which of course would make the whole thing seem like a waste of time. The courses are supposed to be 45-hour courses. The Department of Real Estate makes you wait 18 days to take the final exam. I hope you understand that what I've just been describing is not the difficult part of getting a real estate license. Online, open book, cheat as much as you want to, and you're in. But now you have to go take the state exam. It's a different test. It's not an online test. It's not an at-home test. It's definitely not an open book test. You have to go to one of the Department of Real Estate's physical facilities to take this exam. They have 5: Oakland, Sacramento, Fresno, Orange County, and San Diego. That's it, right? You got to go to one of those locations. The exam itself is it's not open book, by the way, and they're watching you to make sure you don't cheat. And the exam is 150 multiple guess, I mean multiple choice questions. You know the type, A, B, C, D, right? Those kind of questions, pick the best answer. No essays, no true false, no short answer fill in. Out of those 150 questions, you have to get 105 of them right, 70%. You can miss 45 questions and still pass the test. 70% is the score necessary to pass the real estate licensing exam. Does that sound like a particularly high score to require? 70%? Let's say you're laying on the operating table and you hear your brain surgeon chatting, and it turns out the brain surgeon is, well, kind of new. And the brain surgeon says, hey, look, I know I'm new, but don't worry. I passed the brain surgeon's exam. Don't worry, I got 70% of the questions right. I nailed that test. Now, you understand, that doesn't sound very good, does it, if you're a brain surgeon? Getting 70% right means that you missed more than 1 out of every 4 questions you were asked about the subject of brain surgery. That doesn't sound very good. I'd be wondering, gee, the 30% they didn't know, I wonder if that's what they're doing to me. My point is, you don't need to be a brain surgeon to get a real estate license. You understand? You don't have to be a brain surgeon to get a real estate license. All you have to do is get 70% of the answers right on the state exam, and you're in. Having said that, however, every time the Department of Real Estate gives this test, they fail more than half the people that are in the room. Many of those people, they have failed before. You can take this test an unlimited number of times. I have met too many people that have taken this exam more than 10 times. All these people that are failing the real estate exam, right? Repeatedly failing the real estate exam, how many of them do you think were able to get through, successfully complete those 3 online, open book, cheat as much as you want to college courses? How many of them do you think got through those 3 courses? And the answer is they all did, because they won't let you take the state exam unless you've done the 3 college level courses. My point is that doing the 3 college courses does not mean you're getting a real estate license. It simply means you've done the minimum amount that the law requires for you to go take a shot at the exam. But as you can see, most people don't pass. What I do is I teach people how to pass the real estate exam. I have live classes that cover what you need to know to pass the real estate exam. They're on Wednesday nights from 6:30 to about 8:45. They're broadcast on the internet and recorded. They're in a rotating schedule. It's like a pizza. in that they're warm and cheesy. Or it's like a pizza in that a pizza does not have a first slice. Which is the first piece to the pizza? Well, whichever piece you take. So my classes I don't have a first class either. I know there's a number one, but after 12, the next one is one. They just keep going in this rotating sequence, but they're taught as independent modules. That means you could start with any one of them. They don't build on each other. They're all pretty equally confusing at first. You can take them in any order if you wanted to. You can repeat them, well, as often as you can stand it. So the investment in the program is $398. You get the live classes, which you can repeat, video replays, a comprehensive course outline, a practice testing program, the college level courses, and the exam workshop. I think it's called a cram class, right? Before you go take the exam, a cram class before you go take the exam. Why my program, dreclass.com? I have a really high pass rate. Virtually everyone who goes through the course passes the exam on their first try. I encourage you to come and sit through a lesson as my guest just to see if you like it or not. Afterwards, I have a placement program. It's good all over the United States and Canada, where we can assist you in locating an office to work with. And I have a 100% tuition rebate program. The $398 that you pay to go through the course, you'll get back once you join the team and had your first closing. We'll throw extra $398 into you. There are phases of this. The college, and by the way, the live classes and the college level, you're doing at the same time. But just so you realize, it takes about 54 days to finish the 3 college courses. 18 days, 18 days, 18 days. You have to do them like that. So you can't do all 3 at once. The time period is 54 days to finish the first 3 college level courses, but you could take a little bit longer. That's about 8 weeks. The license, and only when you've done that, which is going to take about 8 weeks, the 54 days, only then can you apply to take the state exam. That's going to take 2 to 4 months to get a testing. And while you're doing that, you'd be continuing with the live classes, the practice testing program, the workshop, having your fingerprints done. That process is going to take another 8 to 14 weeks. And then your license will either be issued the day you pass or within 2 weeks of you passing the exam. Bottom line, is going to take 4 to 6 months to get a real estate license. Right? Starting now, it's going to take 4 to 6 months to get a real estate license. By the way, now is not a bad time to get started because the market generally is picking up in March and April and May, and you can be licensed in time for the 2021 spring selling season. We have an apprentice program. The apprentice program is for people that are in the process of getting their license. You get access to other coaching and training sessions that we do every week for people that are in the business so that you're further ahead once your license is issued. We'll give you assistance on things you could post on social media to start building up your database even before your license is issued, and we'll get you a guest pass so you can participate in some of the things that are happening on eXp World. What does it cost to start a real estate career? Let's look at an example. $398 covers the license preparation of the college level courses. To take the state exam and to get your license issued is another $305. To do the fingerprints and the processing is going to be about $75. Joining the union, right, which by the way, you need to understand that the smaller offices, which I also am affiliated with, there's a way of being what's called a referral agent. And a referral agent is somebody who's gotten their license, but hasn't joined the Association of Realtors or the MLS. Why would somebody not want to join the Association of Realtors or the MLS? Because it's going to cost over $1,000, right? That's why, right? And so some people want to wait until they get going. That is an option. However, if you're serious about selling real estate, you're going to need to join a residential. You're going to need to join the Board of Realtors and the Multiple Listing Service. Right? That's where we get the forms that we use from the association, the key that unlocks homes when people aren't there, and access to the Multiple Listing Service database. Now, if you're thinking about, well, maybe I should, how about commercial real estate? In commercial real estate, you don't have to join the board of realtors because they're not generally members. You don't have to join the MLS. They don't usually do that. But the technology and the software and the forms that we use in commercial and what is their version of the multiple listing service, that's going to cost $6,000 to $8,000 a year. I'm just saying, commercial real estate is going to cost $6,000 to $8,000 a year just out of pocket expenses. Just saying. On a monthly basis, right? The multiple listing service, and some of these are built into the startup costs, but the multiple listing service is about $875 a year, $72.83 a month. eXp Realty, as an example, is $85 a month. If you joined one of the other smaller offices, the boutiques, there's no fee, but then you're also not getting the technology and all the training. And if we prorated the $675, which is essentially what you pay on an annual basis to be a member of the board of realtors, and we just figured out what that's going to look like on an average monthly basis, it's a little over $200. About $1,900, under $2,000 to get started, and about $200 a month to be active in it, assuming you're not doing the referral only and you're going directly into the, joining the board of realtors and all that. By the way, if you're thinking, well, that sounds expensive, it's like starting a business. And if you're going to start a business, you would need to have something to start with, and you're going to have to get, an investment. This is a lot lower than most investments. And by the way, our average commission is over $20,000. I just thought I'd throw that out. The license is good for 4 years. Every 4 years, you have to take 45 hours of continuing education to renew, free from the union. If you want to contact us, that's information on how to do that. I have good Yelp reviews. You ought to check them out. A lot of happy people have gone through my classes. I've been doing this for a while. What you might want to do next is attend a free class. So if you go to my website, which is dreclass.com, and you click on the button that says free guest lesson, then when you fill out a form that looks a lot like the one you filled out to come to this class, then you're going to see that you can register and check out a class and see if you can stand 11 more of them. If you're like, I know already, I just want to sign up and get started because I'm in a hurry, you can go to the same website, click on the sign up now button, pick the full course of $398, you pay your money and you're in. And that is the end of what we've got for tonight. Are there any questions from our group? Don't everybody blurt out something at once. I'm waiting to see. I'll give it a minute. You never know. Well, maybe I've done a thorough job because nobody wants any more right now. Check out a class. If you would like to talk to me individually about is it right for me, or you have any questions, reach out to us. I'd be happy to make an appointment and discuss it with you. Other than that, it seems like we're done for this evening. Have a great night, and I look forward to seeing all of you in class.